Hello. If you are watching this video before the general election on May 7th, then the likelihood is you've had a copy of my leaflet, which was personally addressed to you and all the other 75,000 voters in Bournemouth East constituency. I think you're entitled to know from me what I sound like, what I look like, and what it is about me that might make me a good MP for you. I think actually there's no better example of that than the construction of this leaflet itself. And that goes back to May 2014 when I decided to stand for Parliament. I had to look at the practicalities of actually getting elected. And I'm not in this to waste my time or my money. I have no backers. The relatively small amount of money spent has come out of my pocket. I'm therefore in no thrall to anyone. But I'm not going to waste my money on tilting at a windmill. I'm not Lord Such. I'm not here for my own ego. I'm here to become your MP. To that end, I started by forming an alliance with other like-minded people who are standing for Bournemouth Council. And we formed the Bournemouth Independent Alliance in about September 2014. And you can see that we've made some progress. We've designed ourselves a logo and we've got ourselves an organisation. The organisation is quite important because although the fourth largest group of councillors in Britain are independents, they tend to be isolated and at the whim and mercy of stronger political forces. So there's quite a large movement of spontaneous movement around the country of similar groups to BIA being formed around the country. For instance, Frome Independents and Lincolnshire Independents, some of whom run councils. There are several councils run by independents. The advantage that a properly registered group gets as a support group is that it has access to the voters list, can put a logo on the ballot paper and has a sort of mutual support group. But we are not a party. There is no control of our candidates. If they get elected, they are independents, and we have a candidate agreement that promises them their independence. No whip. You could liken us to a brand, or like McDonald's, we are a franchise if you like. We're here to get the public's attention, to give each other support, but we promise you that once elected, our only guide will be our consciences and your interests. Getting the leaflet together was important because it's my only opportunity to, if you like, broadcast. With a Tory local press, the editor of the Bournemouth Echo calls me a fringe candidate. I've little chance of you even knowing who I am by that means. And I haven't got a lot of money. But the good thing that an independent or any MP candidate has is they have one free mailing at the cost of the post office. I'm sure the government pays, but there is no postage payable to all the constituents. And you have two options. You can do like the other parties, which is you send your photos into the party headquarters and they produce a leaflet for you and they send it off to the post office and you have no involvement beyond that. These are some good examples locally. But the difficulty with that is there's only 46,000 addresses. So if a leaflet is unaddressed, then it may go to a house where there are no registered voters, or it might go to a house where there are 4 registered voters. The first person gets the leaflet, tears it up, puts it in the bin, the others don't see it. So the only sensible way of getting before the full 76,000 voters is by an individual mailing, as we've done. And of course you'll have seen your address and name there. That's actually an example of why I think that I'm a worthy person to be an MP, because I'm a problem solver. I had to, and I have an involvement, a very personal involvement with the production of this leaflet. I designed the content of it. I was able to get an excellent, fantastic typesetter to produce the actual artwork, which I'm very proud of. I'm sure she is too. But I also had to obtain the voters list from the council, which is, of course, 76,000 long. If you've ever tried a spreadsheet that size, it's a big job. And it's a fairly disorganised list as well, so it took a few hours of sorting out. Then you've got to find a printer who can actually overprint the addresses. And then you've got to receive all of those boxes. We have in the house here 128 boxes. They weigh 1.4 tonnes, delivered to us by the printers. And then we have to take everyone out, put a rubber band around the groups for the different streets, put them all back in the boxes. Tomorrow we'll take them to Portsmouth to deliver to the post office, who will then take them back to Bournemouth for delivery. But there we go. That's broadcasting. That means I have a decent chance of winning because I am in front of all voters. I have a competitive advantage, if you like, over over the other candidates because they are not attempting that. Their parties don't offer that trouble. They haven't gone to that trouble themselves. Of course, there's a reason, because every other candidate in this election in Bournemouth East, other than Tobias Ellwood, doesn't expect to win. And I mean no insult to them, but realistically they have no chance and they know it. They're doing a good job for their parties. They're attempting to boost the national vote. So when their leader wants to get on a TV debate, they can point back and say, we got X% of the vote, we're entitled to a seat at the table. But realistically, they know, and with respect you should know, that voting for them will not change your MP. Only voting for a candidate who can unite the opposition, if you like, can achieve that. As Brian May has shown in his excellent video, which I urge you to watch, we have a link to it at www.bia.voting/May video. And he focuses on a constituency which apparently is George Osborne's constituency, but it looks terribly like Bournemouth East. Did you know that Bournemouth is not actually a Tory town? They only scored 30% of the vote. But they do that all the time. And large sections of the country are typically coloured blue, and other large sections are typically coloured red. But it doesn't mean that there's a domination in those areas of Tories or Labour. They don't get more than 50% of the vote. They just get more than all the other candidates, or rather more than every other individual candidate. In Bournemouth East, for instance, the last election, Tobias got 30%. The others got more than him. And the people who didn't vote, 38%, got more than him as well. I speculate that a lot of the people who didn't vote thought it wasn't worth doing so. So my appeal to you to vote for me is a tactical one, and it's very practical. You have a choice, a real choice, not about exercising your vote to show your feelings, and I respect that. If you're a Labour voter and you want to vote Labour, I do respect you doing that. But you know that the result of that will be the re-election of our Conservative MP, who will go back to London for another 5 years and then come back for some more votes next time. Only by voting for me do you stand a chance of actually replacing the MP. I think you should also know what I intend to do if I am actually elected to Parliament, and I would invite you to visit my website and look at the forum. This is the picture of how I would interact with voters. I have posted there the various questions raised by email from interested parties. Naturally, as a candidate, I get quite a flood of them from people who are against fracking, people who want to support the NHS, etc. So I've posted their questions and I've posted my initial response. But it's an invitation to engage. It's an invitation for people to persuade me away from my initial knee-jerk reaction, if you like, or I would say considered response. But I'm open to being persuaded. In this way, if a matter comes up before Parliament, such as going to war, I would hope that I would ask the local electorates for their views and get the benefit of their experience. In the case of going to war, let's take Afghanistan. If only our MPs had listened to those people who'd been in the army, those historians who knew what they were talking about, who would have said, don't go there, guys. Churchill was there before. Look how we got beaten in 1864 or whatever it was. In that way, I would be engaging with you in a way that MPs don't at present. Another point is, of course, the way that Parliament is organised and run. And I really would urge you, if you can, to find the 3-part documentary Inside Parliament that was recently shown on BBC. It's an eye-opener. It's an eye-opener about the arcane methods of organisation, the bully boy tactics, I would say public school bully boy tactics used to talk down legislation, and the poor organisation, the very little power that particularly a backbencher for a party has. I would like to have a go at stirring that up. And as Michael Cochrane says at the end of that documentary, it'll be a matter for the new MPs, the new intake after this election, as to how Parliament goes forward. I'm dying to be a part of that. We could really make some proper changes to what we possess, which is a wonderful thing. Parliament is the envy of the world. Other countries have democracies. Just think if you didn't live under a democracy, if you lived in the Ukraine or Hong Kong, how much you would desire having what we've already got. Let's take that power and use it. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this.